Hi folks, Clay Daniel here, LSAT Director for Clayborne Education. I'd like to talk in the next few videos about timing for the LSAT. If you've ever tried the LSAT, you know that this is a pretty enormous issue. Finishing it on time can be a huge challenge. So in the series of videos upcoming, I'm going to talk about timing for each of the sections of the LSAT. We're going to start tonight with the logical reasoning. It's a logical place to start, no pun intended, being roughly half the test. Now, logical reasoning section, actually two sections, making up 50 or 51 questions typically on the LSAT. The logical reasoning has a couple of important differences from both the reading section and the logic games or analytical reasoning. And it has features that make it both easier and harder to break up into parts or to treat in a strategic way with regard to time. One thing that makes it more challenging in timing than the games or the reading is that it's not broken up into natural divisions. There are 4 logic games. There are 4 reading passages. So you can think about the 35 minutes as they relate to those 4 games or passages and break them up accordingly. We'll talk about that more in the following videos. But the logical reasoning has 25 or 26 questions. They just go 1 to 25 or 1 to 26. There aren't natural segmentations. Now on the flip side, one thing that's easier about the logical reasoning with regard to timing is that it tends to go easier to harder as you go from 1 to 25 or 26. It's not a linear fashion. Sometimes you'll have harder ones crop up among easier ones, but in general it goes easier to harder. That leads directly into a great way of thinking about the timing on the LR section. It's a very memorable way as well. It's called the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. A nice series of consecutive integers, as we would say in our math tutoring, right in order. And 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 refers to minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, etc., that correspond to 5 question groupings on an LR section. If you're doing any math in your head, you may realize, hey, wait, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, that adds up to 35 minutes. Exactly the allotted time on the LR section. So what 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 allows you to do is to allot a number of minutes for each 5 question interval, but also account for the fact that the section's getting harder as you go. So doing the first 5 questions in 5 minutes can be pretty realistic, a minute per question, because they tend to be among the easier. But doing that with the last 5 wouldn't really make sense. Most students need more like almost 2 minutes per question for that. That's why when you get to the 9 minutes, that makes a lot more sense at that level. So when you time yourself, it's a great idea to think of it in these 5 question groupings. Hey, I want to be at question number 5 by 5 minutes in. Then 6 more minutes for the next 5. So by question 10, you're at 11 minutes, 5 plus 6. Then 7 more minutes for the 5 after that, etc. Now, some LR sections, as I mentioned, have 26 questions. So in that case, you'll have 1 question left over that you need to account for. Now, the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 isn't perfect. It's not something that you have to hit down to the very second. Early on, if you're within about a minute of your target, you're fine. And later on, you could even be within 2, 3, or 4 minutes. You're probably okay. But what it helps you do is know whether you're really way off base one way or the other. Either working too quickly, that rarely happens, but it does happen, or far too slowly, which is much more common experience. And if you're working far too slowly, then you need to think about, well, how do I begin strategically skipping questions or making some quick guesses so that I can make sure that I'm grabbing all the lowest hanging fruit, the most accessible questions. So the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is a great way to think about completing the entire section. Now, one more thing to note. If you don't have a super ambitious goal on the LSAT, maybe you're shooting for somewhere in the 150s, you may not even need to answer all the questions on the LR section. Let's say that out of 25 or 26, you only need to get to about 22 to 24. What you can do in that case is add 1 minute to each of the first 4 sections. Don't call it the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Call it the 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 5 at the end. So 6 minutes for the first 5, then 7, then 8, then 9, And then when you get to the last few, you'll have 5 minutes, which won't allow you to do all the questions, but will allow you some time to strategically choose where to go. So start with the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 if your goal is definitely to finish all the questions, if you have a pretty ambitious LSAT goal. But you can move it down to 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 5 minutes left over to selectively do the rest. It's a great and very memorable way to approach the LR section strategically. And as you practice it over time, it'll almost just kind of get in your blood. It'll be easier to follow with your analog watch, these time increments, and you'll really get a sense of how your timing matches up to the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and ultimately, as you practice, hopefully allows you to finish all those questions. So I wish you best of luck, and I'll be back soon with another timing video about the LSAT.